Hey guys, how are you? It's JP Sarri. Um, Today I have another review of an omnibus. I've been looking forward to do this one for a while. I was actually not sure how I wanted to do it because I really like this. It's one of my favorite superhero teams of all times, and actually one of my favorite writers, John Byrne. And I didn't know how to really approach this to give it the respect that this material deserves, and the quality of this art. And I'm gonna try to be as try not to extend myself because there's a lot to cover. But that way you know exactly and you can enjoy this video and not to have to suffer a long video because there's so much to talk about really about this story. Fantastic Four is one of the main forces I would say that have created Marvel Comics. It was created back in 1961, and the Silver Age of comics, by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, and it became one of the most powerful, most famous and comics for the Marvel universe, for Marvel Comics. Really drove the sales for this company high, big times. It was the first superhero team for the Marvel Comics before the Avengers, before anything else. Um, it was not the first superhero team in existence because prior to this, the only one that we had was Justice League of America on DC Comics. They're very successful, and Marvel wanted to kind of fight that back with the powerful team, and with a team that actually was very enjoyable, and actually they succeeded with Fantastic Four, and it was a great comic. But then it changed a few years later. Things started like everything else in the beginning. Things start changing and moving, and being the stories are being developed by different writers. And 20 years pass, and actually the story was not as great. But back in the mid 70s, early 80s, a person that really changed, this comic and took it to the next level, and personally, in my opinion, even took it beyond what Kirby and Stanley intended, was John Byrne, and we're gonna go in detail on this. This is the cover. It's a very thick book. There's more. I don't know exactly how many pages, but I know that there's more than 1,000 pages right here. I love the art. This art is by John Byrne, and you can see right there in the corner, the Stan Lee. As you can see here are the pages, well, the covers of all this different issues that were used. There's more than there's 47 issues in this. That includes some of the Spider-Man, some of the team-ups, Marvel team-ups, and also Battle Thing, and Fantastic Four mainly. A lot of John Byrne work. And as you can see, there's a lot of pages to think. One right there, the Fantastic Four Annual. It's a great compendium. It's a great book. It's a great collection. I don't think you can find anything else like this. Let's go inside. Let me just take this cover out so we can manage this easily. As you can see right there, it says Fantastic Four Omnibus. Silver lettering, very nice, right there, and black in the back. It's just regular, thick, very high quality collection book. And as you can see right there, and when you turn it, it says Fantastic Four Omnibus Volume 1. And as you can see right here, and it shows in this case the writers. Mainly is John Byrne. Very controversial person really over the years. If you know his art, he back in the 70s, he really changed a lot of things. He was an Avengers writer. He wrote a lot of the stories for I think the mayor, stories of the time. Very famous for his work with the X-Men. Actually, him and Chris Claremont together, because also he was not just a writer, also as an artist. This is one of the greatest things with Chris Claremont. They did one of the greatest runs of X-Men back in the 70s. Also, there are some issues where Chris Claremont is actually being part of in the beginning with Marvel team-ups. The first two issues of this collection. He is the writer. Also, we have Marv Wolfman, very famous because he was actually he was the writer of the Tomb of Dracula, and he's actually the creator of Blade, the character of Blade, but also he wrote for DC Comics, and he did actually he was one of the writers, the co-creators of the Infinite Crisis, and many of the stories of DC Comics. Bill Mantlo, a great writer, he did a lot of different runs with the Hulk, Incredible Hulk, and other books. Tragically, he suffered from he was a victim of a hit and run back in the 90s, early 90s, 1992, I think. And but he was a great left him comatose, and to this day he needs a lot of care. But a great writer on in the 70s. Stan Lee, there's a part where Stan Lee participates in when they commemorate the 20th anniversary of the story. And Roger Stern, a great writer too, actually the creator of the West Coast Avengers. And of course, you can see on the artists, you got John Byrne, Jack Kirby, when they did the number 236, celebrating the 20 years of the Fantastic Four, and Ron Wilson. This is a famous African American artist. She started in 1977, and it goes all the way to 1983. There's 6 years of history of comics here. And the art is amazing. In the beginning, as you can see, all this includes a lot of the art is by, in this case, by, John Byrne. Like I was saying, a very controversial person. And as you can see right here on this part, actually, is Chris Claremont is the one writing the first two stories. This actually is the first story, because in reality, this book is to celebrate or to commemorate the work of John Byrne. Actually, this is his. He is drawing on this art. He's drawing here, and I can tell you one thing. John Byrne was a great artist. He really brought life to a lot of these characters. Some of the most important stories on the timeline of the Marvel universe were done by his character. As you can see, here's the Super Skrull and Spider-Man, and this team up. Also, you have Mrs. Marvel. It's just as you can go on, and I can actually go page by page, and that will take forever. You can see the magnificent art of an artist. And here's a confrontation, the Thing versus the Thing, when actually the Thing goes back in the past and it confronts himself. And actually it's kind of like a funny thing, because he confronts the different versions of him, the way he was presented before. Supposedly, the longer he was the Thing, he was becoming, more, his face was changing. I like this expression right here. You can see the face, with a cigar, very Thing-like, something that we all kind of love of the Thing, Benjamin Graham. Actually, here in this, one thing about John Byrne, he changed the stories. He introduced Harvey right here, the famous robot. One problem that we have over the years with Fantastic Four was that in the beginning, when it was created, it was very fantastic, successful, because it was actually a family. Where there's people that came together as a family. Within the story, we saw Richards and Susan Storm getting married. They were like the parents of the house. Ben Grimm was always like the uncle, and Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, was like the little kid that they need to take care of, because he was never really doing the right thing. You can see Galactus. But through this time and through the stories, what happened is that a lot of things were lost over the years. Many writers came up after Stan Lee, and they trying to make things and make it work, but it really did not work. It was just constantly there were a lot of things that were not done right and properly, and there was it was messy by the time John Byrne took over, and John Byrne took it back to basics. I was born in the 1978. My father was a comic reader, and that's how I got introduced into the Fantastic Four. And one of the things that I read, well, my dad had a collection of comics, so I read the old comics from that time period. Back, I was not even born when many of these issues were created. So I had the opportunity to really read these backstories and enjoy them, and really understand that. And for me, there's nothing more canonical than this. Even though for some people they might say, they love the work of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, and that will not be change. I know that. I personally think that John Byrne did what, very quietly in many ways. He did something that really shaped what now we see part of the universe and we understand of this character, starting from the Fantastic Four, what he did with Chris Claremont when he was working on X-Men. Chris Claremont and John Byrne, they did great things. As you can see, one thing, the art, it was very, I can say, and many people would consider basic. One thing about him, about John Byrne, is that his art has a lot. There's not a lot of. I would say it's rounded. It's not as straight in some parts. It is gentle. He has a gentle stroke when he draws. But the quality of his work is outstanding. He does it in a way that it looks good. It looks pretty. For the time, it was great. It was nothing better, nothing more comparable to his art. People enjoy it. As you can see, he made Sue Storm a very powerful character, because before that he was just the Invisible Girl, and through his art, she became the Invisible Woman. We have to understand, part of the story is that during that time period in Marvel Comics and even in DC Comics, there was a lot of work. A lot of these artists, they were pushed to the limit when it comes about doing their art. They were having to do this constantly, drawing, and sometimes they have to pull double shift. They have to work. While John Byrne was doing this, he was also working on the X-Men. So it was a lot of work and a lot of pressure. Sometimes there are some issues where he will not be part of. What I love about John, it was his expression, facial expression. As you can see right here, the eyes are beautiful. The face, Susan Storm. Nobody has drawn Susan Storm as pretty as he did. As personally, it was some decor. It was some beauty that he put into the character. When I was a kid, I always look at her and I was like impressed by her beauty. And this is just a comic character. In this story, we can see that now. In the beginning, it was John Byrne just drawing, but then they give him pretty much the job. He started doing the work himself, and when he started doing the work himself, things start changing. And I think this is part of Marv Wolfman when he was writing, and but his drawing style, his art style was sublime. That's not the way. Another thing that I always like about John Byrne, if probably you don't see, is that even he's been asked, what is the thing that he hated the most, and he always said that he hated the straight lines. But even though he hated straight lines, there wasn't. I don't think anybody else was as good as him in drawing landscape. When it comes about like city landscape, he drew New York City in a way that nobody else did, that I personally like and enjoy. The straight lines, there's a lot of straight lines in there, and he did most of that work. He did that. His backgrounds, as you go through the art, you can see the backgrounds were very intense. And he was there. He took this character, this back to basics. That's how he called it, and he took it back to basics. The story, he kind of reshaped the story, transformed the story, in a way that it was, not seen before. He really revitalized power team that I was actually kind of dying by this time. There was the X-Men had more power, more famous, were getting more famous. The Avengers had more pull with people. The Fantastic Four were kind of dying, but he brought it back. And as you can see, this is the same cover. This is issue number 236. Very nice. As you can see, you can keep them going. You can see the Puppet Master right there. Very evil face. The story was fantastic, and you can go on and on. Doctor Doom, and I can tell you one thing. Some people love Doctor Doom, and for statue collectors, they love the Doctor Doom on the Throne PF. And honestly, to me, I never really liked it because I really always hated the character because I grew up reading this comics, and he was a very evil character. If there was somebody you can personalize evil, it was Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom was bad to the bone. And actually, part of the story after the 20th anniversary of the Fantastic Four, they decide to give a section of this comic just to Jack Kirby. And actually, this is Stan Lee and Jack Kirby again. When they celebrated that, they wrote the story, and it's pretty much basic art of Jack Kirby. And as you can see, it kind of a little childish, because that's how it was back in the day. Very nice. I would say it's nice. It's not. I'm not nothing against Jack Kirby or Stanley. It was just back to the simple, more story. But it was nice that they put it there as a to commemorate the ones actually that created the story, that co-created the story together. But then it goes back to the art by John Byrne, and it's mainly that. You see a lot of the art, beautiful art, and as you can see, this is Frankie Ray, the girlfriend of beautiful right there. I can tell you one thing, something about John Byrne that a lot of people have said through the years is that he drew women in a way that were beautiful. They were beautiful. They were gorgeous. He had this gentleness when it comes about when he came about drawing women, the figures. It was not as stylish like we have nowadays, but it was there. There was no like extreme pinups, but they were beautiful. Very gentle. The curves were very gentle, and as you can see, he even drew himself right there. And that's what it really. When you can see the story and you can go through it and back and forth, you really can understand, his art. It was fantastic. Then Frankie Ray, she became the third Human Torch. It's part of the story. There's many characters. One thing I can say about. As you can see, the Black Panther right there. One thing that happened with John is that he introduced in his comic and the story he created, he kind of came together with the whole story. He brought all the characters of the Marvel possible characters that he could just come up with. His story was, he is the one. I need to understand this part. There's two different methods that are used for creating comics. The first one has always been the classic method that was actually the one used by DC Comics and it's still used for many years, that actually the story is created and it's given to the script is given to the in this case the artist for them to draw based on the artist. And actually here you can see this is actually my favorite. This is actually the story that I like the most about this book, is when Terrax comes to Earth and actually they have to battle Galactus again on Earth. And that's one of my favorite stories of all times. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, the art here. And as you can go, and I'm going to go through it. But like I was telling you, the style, but then it came the Marvel style. That actually was developed by Stan Lee, and actually more by necessity. It was created. It was the art where, I'm kind of distracted looking at this view, because every time I look at this, it's just a reminiscence of my childhood. Growing up reading this, looking at this images is just an amazing thing. As you can see, all the characters of the universe, the Marvel universe, are brought together. Even Thor, and it is amazing. This is one of my favorite books of all times. I think the art this is when John Byrne was at the top of his game, when his drawing, his art has evolved so much, and it is, it is amazing the way he did it. And as you can see right here, you can see Galactus, a beautiful art of Galactus, and all the even the Avengers, all everybody involved into trying to destroy him, to get him. And you can see the Baxter Building was destroyed. As you can see, beautiful face. You can see the expression, the face. It's just the art. His art was so 70s, but so retro in one way or the other for somebody like for us now. But so beautiful. The lines. Even though like I said, he had a problem with lines. His art was amazing. He was doing it. He was on top of his game then. And you have to understand this part. He was writing at the same time he was drawing his own art. Like I was telling you, there's different styles, at that time, and the styles were so unique and different, while everybody was doing, the different styles and the script style and the plot style for writing comics, he was doing both things. He was doing it himself. He was working the art. And, John Byrne has always been famous, very iconic image of Galactus falling and all the Avengers there, John Byrne. Even though this, he was doing himself. He's been very famous, always John, for being a controversial controversial person and difficult person to work with. A lot of people can say that he was hard to work with, but he was a perfectionist, and he's still a perfectionist, and sometimes great artists are perfectionists but that's something that I would say, and I'm grateful that he was like that, is because he kept the story going and going and going the way that everybody wanted to see it. He kept the story one way or the other. He kept the story, just as we wanted to see it. A story that it was amazing. It was beyond everything else. It was, that's what you want, continuity in the stories. That's something that we don't have today. Today, the art is just not there. The people are not there. There is beautiful art nowadays, but the writing is just lax. And he was doing those things both. He was writing, he was drawing the stories, he was creating the universe, he was shaping the universe, he was combining, here's the Inhumans, bringing all kind of characters, during that time period, the Fantastic Four did all kind of things, went over, this is a gigantic alien that they have to confront to save the Inhumans. Just go the story, go after go, and Gladiator, and that's actually, I love this, it's one of this is so iconic. John Byrne, if you know a little bit about the story of John Byrne, this is a very iconic image where the Gladiator actually comes to Earth and he battles the Fantastic Four. But then John Byrne went to work for DC Comics, and actually he did the same, but with Superman and Darkseid and all the characters of enemies of Superman all laying around Superman. Well, a lot of people say that was that he shouldn't do that. That was copying something, but in reality, he's the artist. He did this art, so he did the other art. It was kind of like a smack in your face that he was doing to Marvel in one way or the other, but also reminding himself that he is the one that did it. He is the creator. Very controversial. How controversial can we say John Byrne was? Like for example, in the 90s, early 90s, when Jack Kirby came. The great Jack Kirby, he came out and he was actually demanding more financial, recognition for his work during all those years through Marvel. Well-deserved recognition that he never make the money that he wanted or that he deserved for all that, while Marvel make millions, if not billions of dollars on these characters that he could create with Stanley. And actually, John Byrne, he came into the defense of Marvel, saying that, as a company man, you should stand your ground and you should just follow orders and do what needs to say necessary. And, that's actually the life of John Byrne. He never took credit for something that he was on, even though he worked and he shaped so many of the stories of that time. He never took credit, and that created many enemies, because a lot of people, they criticizing for that, attacking for that. Even Eric Larson, so many people during that time, in that era, where they're trying to fight back the system, to be more fair for everybody, really. Very iconic pose right here. You can see there was something actually when Marvel was trying to do these things. I never really was a fan of it. When they were trying to do these pages, like to the comics, trying to change the format to make it look like that. I never was a fan of it. It didn't really hold that strong. I think a lot of people were critical about it. They say we don't want it that way, so he came back. But they tried it in the different issues, not just with this comic, but almost all the comics. But then they always came back to the format that we all know. The format that we love. And as you can see, in the story, it's so fantastic. That's the reason why they call it Fantastic Four. They went all over the universe, not just Earth. They battled so many enemies all over the place. And as you can see, there is actually a comic of the Avengers, number 233. Because actually there's a continuity of the story, because actually the stories were combined, and so they needed to kind of put them together. Captain Marvel and the She-Hulk, very beautiful character right there, and all the characters, Wanda. Amazing story, and I keep them going. I can keep moving, keep change even the characters, the uniforms to the white one, to the blue and white instead of the blue and black. Keep them going. Honestly, we have so much to go through that by this time you're bored of reading all this. But the story goes on and on and on and on, and art after art, page after page. All you see is great art. As you can see, Prince Namor, the Submariner. The story's there, I can tell you that I can keep on going. It's more than 1,000 pages right now, and I will go, and that's pretty much the end. Waiting for the second edition. It's coming out later this year. And because there's so much story, the second edition for John Byrne. I love this compendium. I love this volume. I love this collection, this omnibus. I highly recommend it. As you can see right here, it was priced at $125 US dollars, 140 Canadian dollars. I bought it for a steal, less than half of the price, almost a third of the price. Any place online, you can go to Barnes and Nobles, you can go to eBay, you can go to Amazon, you can find them for great deals. These books, they tend to, because they have so much collectible value, after a while, when they're no longer in stock, they go up in price. Trying to find some of the originals right now, or even the Spider-Man. Good thing there's always reprints, and they're going to reprint some of the stories. I highly recommend it. If you want to get into the story, if you're a fan of John Byrne, this is the book for you. If you're a fan of the 70s and 80s art, this is a book for you. If you're not crazy about that, just save your money and try to buy something else. Get the money. Try to get something else. Controversial. John Byrne always been a controversial person, and he has a lot of fans. Also, a lot of people that hate him because of all his controversy, because of all the fame that he brought with him, and his comments about Jack Kirby. But you have to respect the man for his opinion. And you have to respect him because in reality he did a lot for comics and for this universe. The stories that we still enjoy today, they have a great effect on what he has done. And he's still working, After that he went to work for Marvel. He went to DC Comics, and he did great things with DC Comics. The Man of Steel, the Superman of Tomorrow, he's the creator of that story. Did amazing things, and he worked for Dark Horse Comics and for other comics. And he's been all over the place, and I respect him. I like his work. It meant a lot to me growing up. I don't see anything else can compare during that time period. Personally, I love his writing. I love his art. I love what he did with the characters, and I wish that John Byrne was given more credit for what he has done for the industry. But this is my personal opinion, and I think this is an opinion that many people share today and still share, and because a lot of the stories they treasure. And this is an enjoyable book. It will take you hours to read it through. But it is an amazing collection. So thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate that you took the time, and even though it's more than 30 minutes already, I'm glad if you really have the opportunity to, you really take the time to look at this video. I really appreciate that. So have a great day, great afternoon, great morning, good evening, and I'll talk to you again. I'll see you in the next review. Have a good one, my friends.